feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven, of course, by Stokes Volkswagen, live, loud, and online, and here until 2 o'clock on this hump day, the last Wednesday of September, October. Here we come. JB and Darren, make sure you follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB, and at Darren Goldwater. 843-321-8893 is our phone number. It is also our text line. The Share Healthcare chat lines are open. We've already heard from Craig and Adam today, and Clint now. So welcome aboard, fellas, and so many more of you out there. Pop us a note. Darren will pop it onto the screen, and we'll make it a part of our conversation over the next couple of hours. Braves could all but clinch it tonight. I would almost go as far as saying it's over now that they were able to hang on last night in Atlanta. We'll get to that just a little bit. College football, there's a lot of parity out there. We're going to tell you why here in just a couple of moments. JC Shurburt's at 12:30. He'll spend at least an hour with us this afternoon talking a bunch of Gamecock football, and we will keep our eyes on what's going on in Columbia because, you know, props to Shane Beamer for allowing each week his coordinators to address the media. And I know that, you know, this offense has been really not good, bad to put it politely, for the Gamecocks. But, you know, Marcus Satterfield makes a bunch of money, and he's going to have to get up there and answer questions today. And so we'll see what his response is to what I'm hoping the press corps, whom we know all those guys and gals, I'm hoping that they're going to try to get some real answers out of the offensive coordinator in Columbia. So we'll certainly talk about all that. We'll look back with JC at the Kentucky loss, look ahead to the Troy game, and we'll take a drive around the SEC. What a weekend it is in the Southeastern Conference. Have some NFL stuff we'll certainly mix in as well. So it's going to be another fun day around here on JB and Goldwater. But without going any further, good afternoon, Darren.
Figured if we were going to spend some time talking about the Braves likely clinching and it basically being all but done, I may as well rock my 2019 national champs, world champs.
There you go.
The national shirt, because I'm not going to be able to hold that over the Braves' heads anymore. Man, this is going to be 4 straight division crowns for them.
Yep.
And it's a heck of a run. And yeah, I mean, it's all but over, right? It's a 3-game magic number now. And if this thing can even get extended, there's still one more game the Braves could potentially play. I guess what day after the regular season that got bagged, a week or 2 ago. I mean, it's done, right? I mean, it's done. They're going to win the East.
Yeah, they're going to win the East. You know, it's not it is a foregone conclusion. They're going to win the East. It's not officially done. I'll say this: if you're a Braves fan, follow me here. Follow me, all right? Okay? Remember when they won those 14 straight? The 4th one, they won the World Series.
Oh.
So this is going to be 4. This is going to be 4.
It'd be a magical run. And you'd hear some references, if you can pull it off, to what the Nationals did in 19, because even though there was a pitching rotation that was stout, Not many people thought that the Brewers would win that wild card. Certainly no one thought the Nationals would beat the Dodgers. And most people didn't think the Nationals were going to beat the Astros. And I don't think the Braves will be favored in any of the series. It's not to say they can't win it, clearly, but my guess is they wouldn't be favored in any of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, right now, if you ask me to pick somebody who's going to win this thing, I'd probably just ride with the Cardinals. I don't know when they're going to lose again. They've now won 17 straight. I mean, obviously, they've gotten hot at the right time. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You're going to lose a game here and there, even if you win the World Series in the postseason, but it's about winning series. And right now, they have all the confidence in the world, in addition to being a pretty talented group there, Darren. But it almost got out of the Braves' hands last night. That ball that hit off Rosario's glove in left field almost cost them. But they were able to get a strikeout there at the end with Will Smith and win it 2-1. So if they can get it done tonight, mathematically, it's not over. But we all know it's over if it happens, and the Braves will move on. I'll say this. I got to watch the end of the game last night.
Oh.
Because the MLB Network, and their MLB Tonight, they're driving around the ballparks, and they went to Atlanta, and I was able to watch the game. So no thanks to Bally Sports and no thanks to Dish or anybody else. No, all the blackouts, all that crap that goes on, which is the biggest joke in sports. Thanks to MLB Network, I got to watch the end of the game.
Here's the good news. In about a week, it won't matter anymore because you'll be in the playoffs and you'll be able to watch every single one of them.
That's right. Yeah, it's not going to matter anymore. I love playoff baseball, Darren. I know you do too. I just love playoff baseball. I know it's football season. Everybody's kicked into gear for college football and the NFL, but I don't miss playoff baseball. I watch as many games as I can.
We're baseball guys at heart. So playoff baseball is one of the purest forms of what's going to take me back to being a kid. Right. And I just went through the emotional ride of it. I mean, 2019 feels like yesterday to me. Going through that thing with the Nationals feels like yesterday. Mm-hmm. That carries me through even more postseasons now. I mean, there's just something pure and genuinely right about postseason baseball.
Yep, no question. All right, Craig. So I haven't addressed this since we talked about it. I had done the trial of YouTube TV, and then I ultimately canceled it. But here's why.
It wouldn't have helped you with the Braves.
No, it wouldn't.
No.
But here's why I did that. Just so you know, I haven't told you this, Darren. A little bit of an update on my TV situation. So I canceled it with a couple of days left in the trial. I really liked it. There was nothing wrong with YouTube TV. I loved it, as a matter of fact. So I called to cancel. I knew what was going to happen. This happens every time you try to call to cancel stuff. We're going to offer you a better deal. I knew that was coming.
Yeah.
But the guy was like, no problem. I'm going to cancel you. And then he was straight up with me with Dish. He said, so you do understand it is my obligation to tell you what I can offer you. I just want you to know that. And I was like, nah, it's fine. I'm not going to tell you. Don't tell. He was super nice about it. So I was like, no, go ahead. I knew that was coming. And he kind of laughed. He said, okay. He was like, look, for everything you're getting, I can get you down. This is including taxes, everything out the door, boxes a month, the whole 9 yards, $90 a month. And I said, that's impossible. I've never gotten it that low. He goes, well, I can do $90 a month for 2 years if you sign a 2-year deal. And I'll give you all brand new boxes. Everything brand new, the whole 9 yards. So I was like, okay, after a 3-month trial with YouTube TV, then I'll be paying $25 more a month to stay with Dish because YouTube TV goes up to $65 after 3 months of $55. And the difference of $25 was worth it for me to have a backup plan. And that's what I kept telling you. I was like, dude, if the internet goes down, I'm like literally dead in the water. But if the TV goes down, I still have the internet. If the internet goes down, I have the TV. So I have right now multiple ways to watch it, and I thought the extra $25 a month would be worth it to have the backup plan. So I stuck with it.
Yeah, it makes sense. Plus, we are married, and if you can do things consistently and not say, "Hey, we're changing," that might also be worth $25 a month just to keep things normal and easy and just how everybody likes it.
Yeah, so I did, and so I'm still with Dish. And since they updated my boxes, it's even better than it was before. Everything clicks on all cylinders. I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. I'm a happy camper. All right, 12:10 on a Wednesday afternoon. The Share Healthcare chat lines, chime in where you may. There's many of you who already are. We certainly appreciate that. Don't get stuck with those big medical bills. More affordable, more options, user friendly. ShareHealthcare.com, as low as $149 a month. What? Under $150, as low as that. Now, it might just be you. You might have to pay a little bit more for your family, but you're already doing that with whatever insurance you have. Just check it out. ShareHealthcare.com. I'm telling you, it's something to see. ShareHealthcare.com. JC is ahead at 12:30, and certainly going to get into plenty of South Carolina with him. I saw this today to kind of lead into what we're going to discuss here, parity amongst college football. But you know that S&P index that is on ESPN?
Yeah.
So they have the Gamecocks losing to Troy this weekend, 24-22. Which Carolina's only a 7-point favorite at home against the Trojans. Have a top 5 defense out there based on the numbers thus far. It's pretty good. And it kind of got me thinking. I think you and I were already kind of going to discuss parity in the sport, but it's rare, right, that a Sun Belt team is predicted by anything to go into an SEC ballpark and win a game. And Coach Beamer talked yesterday about how, this is a pretty good Troy ball club. And so we'll see what they look like come Saturday. That S&P, by the way, is never really that right. It's honestly not. Like they're wrong about a lot. It's wrong about a lot of stuff. I mean, last week Carolina had according to S&P, a 59% chance to win the game against Kentucky. So, take that for what it's worth. But there is parity in the sport, Darren, and there's a stat that's floating around now that's we've never seen this. 19 top 25 teams have lost in the first 3 weeks of the college football season. And look at Clemson. Clemson is 2-2, and they're hanging on by a thread in the AP poll. They're at 25, and if they get beat this week, they got a ways to go to try to get back into that sucker. You look at what's going on at some of the other traditional programs. Look at Oklahoma. They have 3 of their 4 wins this year by 7 points or less, if I'm not mistaken. And this is supposed to be a college football playoff team.
And 2 of those, Nebraska and Tulane. Yeah.
Tulane. 40-35.
Yeah.
So, I think that it's always somewhere in the middle, right? I mean, I'm not I agree with what Mike Morgan said yesterday. You've got 1 and 2, and then you literally have everybody else. I don't see anybody right now, although Florida played the tie within 2 points. I still don't see anybody who is better than Alabama and better than Georgia, or that really approaches them and on a neutral field would beat them. I just haven't seen it yet. We might see it over the next couple of weeks. That obviously changes day to day. I'm not discounting that. But so it's those 2 and then everybody else. Iowa's really good. Penn State, I think, is really good. I think Florida might be better than we've given them credit for. We're going to find out this weekend how good teams like Cincinnati are, Darren. Oklahoma seemingly is pretty good. Arkansas is in the top 10. We don't know yet. They get Georgia this weekend, so we're gonna figure them out quickly. Notre Dame, teams like that. But the point is, and I just used a couple of small examples, a lot of, like, we talk around here, Darren, and you're pretty adamant about it. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. I lean towards what you say about the future of the sport, that eventually it's going to be the Power 5 and breaking off and doing their own thing. But a lot of these G5 programs, not all of them, but a lot of them, they really push these, quote, Power 5 leagues. And they've beaten a lot of these teams. And so I think it's really good for college football. I like that. And I don't think it's near over. I think the next couple of weeks we're going to see more of this.
I think this year, I don't think it's near over. I think it starts to level back off again after this year, because a big part of this, and Mike Morgan said it, Gene Sapikoff had it in an article, I think it was today, I've seen it in a couple places. A big part of this is the fact that you've got 5th, 6th, 7th year guys who are still on teams. And while those guys aren't the difference makers for a Power 5 program, those guys are gone. If you're a difference maker in your 7th year, what are you doing in college? You should be in the NFL like 4 years ago. So those guys for the Power 5s aren't there. But when you have two teams with a little bit differing talent level, but not too far, if you've got one that has all the experience in the world, guys who have been in the system, guys who have won, guys who have learned to win, they can win some of those games. That's where I think you're seeing some of the leveling off there. There's also been 10 FCS upsets of FBS teams in the first 3 weeks. So it's not only in the top level of football, sink down to the FCS, and there have been a couple that have jumped up to bite some of the FBS guys this year. I think that's a big reason. And then I think as you stop having that extra COVID year, I'm assuming that goes away at some point, I think then you'll start to see the leveling off of all of that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go that far yet because I'm interested to see what ends up happening with the transfer portal. So, Craig's commenting on the transfer portal right now, but a lot of what we've seen with the transfer portal is the better players at smaller schools going to larger schools, Power 5 schools, and then Power 5 players going to Power 5 schools. Like, we haven't necessarily seen a ton that I know of, that I'm aware of to this point, and I'm sure I'm missing somebody out there. Correct me when I'm wrong, but we haven't seen a heavy mass or a mass exodus, however you'd like to term that, of quality Power 5 guys who just maybe haven't gotten an opportunity or aren't happy with their situation transferring to G5 type programs yet. Like right now, the transfer portal is still very new. And with that, right, Darren, I mean, just the way that I look at it, everybody thinks, oh, well, the transfer portal is here. I'm going to transfer to whatever their dream is, somewhere in the SEC or the ACC or the Pac-12 or whatever. And as time goes on and more data and more information is out there, I think we're going to find that a lot of those transfers, number one, a lot of them are still in the portal. And a lot of those they're not going to work out. I mean, Jamie Robinson transferred to Florida State, and that ain't working out. He ain't played worth a crap. Neither is Florida State. So, but will players learn from that? And the next Jamie Robinson in 2 or 3 years, will he transfer to Tulsa or Coastal Carolina and actually make those guys better? Where you'll be able to see a lot of this. So I hear what you're saying. I don't disagree at all. I do think there will be a leveling out, but I also think there's an opportunity still for G5 programs, much like East Carolina did, to hit the portal and get a bunch of Power 5 guys. And if you can get it worked out, you'd be able to rebuild your roster in a hurry.
Kind of strike lightning in a bottle in 1 year. That is the advantage to the portal. Yeah. And there have been a lot of guys that it hasn't worked out. And then there are guys like Will Levis, who it's obviously worked out. I mean, now he's starting at Kentucky, and he couldn't see the field really when he was at Penn State. And there's positive feelings, even though they're turning the ball over every time they touch it, but they're winning. Just another reminder of that.
That's
I guess.
True.
But
you have a lot of turnovers.
I'm curious to see how that transfer portal does evolve, because it seems it helps the big boys probably more than it helps anybody else. It was Lane Kiffin. It was a week or two ago, and ironically, they're playing. Kiffin, Ole Miss's coach, said Nick Saban in Alabama, it's like they get the best draft picks every year and the best free agents. That's true. That's why Clemson needs to start doing some of that as well if they want to reload in a hurry. And I think they will. I don't know. I just think they will. But that's true. When guys are transferring, it's the same as the top 5-star guy. If I have the top quarterback in the country currently in college and playing, and he's not happy, where does he want to go? He wants to go win. So if he can go to Alabama, if he can go to Ohio State, he's probably going to do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. You're also seeing, look, the data points, they're not all there yet, right? So, I mean, take South Carolina, for instance. Mm-hmm. Think about all the transfers that they have brought in, especially since Coach Beamer arrived at South Carolina. how many of them are where are they from, number one, and how many of them are really truly making an impact?
Right.
I mean,
it's helped depth. It's helped depth. There have been some relationships because of, regional ties, right? But yes, to your point, that's absolutely accurate.
right. So that then you take that I mean, I can name a couple. I mean, Carlin's Patel is one. But outside of that, I mean, you mentioned it, depth, but they haven't stepped right in and turned into superstars, maybe like they thought that the Karan Prunty kid might do when he transferred from Kansas. So then the spinoff conversations are, all right, well, will some of these type kids, as these data points come out time and time again, G5, FCS, Power 5 kids, where they're transferring, where they're going, how much they're contributing, are they having to are they trying to transfer again? Are they playing? Was it a better situation for them? Whatever it is. And how much will they learn from that? If you're South Carolina, I think, early returns are that some of those transfers are probably going to be helpful a little bit further down the road. Some of them aren't going to be helpful at all. And some of them are immediately helping. But the real piece to the puzzle is if you can go to the transfer portal and get really good players from really good schools like Power 5 schools, that's your immediate help. So how many of these guys who transferred to a place like Carolina are going to look in the future and say, maybe I should go to actually like East Carolina instead of South Carolina? Clint, there you go. You for whatever reason, I could not think of Jordan Strawn and David Spalding's names, but Spalding has been pretty good. And Jordan Strawn, I'd say, has probably been the best one thus far for South Carolina. He is really good. But outside of that, I mean, we haven't seen a whole lot out of E.J. Jenkins yet. Jason Brown isn't a good quarterback at this level. That's period. And you can find examples like this all over the place. So the point is, like, we're talking about parity in the sport, and it's kind of this conversation has shifted itself as to how the transfer portal will or will not impact parity. And I think my conclusion is it's still too early to tell.
With the portal, I think you're right. It is, because sometimes you hit lightning in a bottle, like Kentucky has done. I mean, isn't their top receiver a transfer as well? And I think the running backs should transfer in as well. So I mean, they've certainly hit, but you're not going to find the consistency with which they hit all around. So as the data points, as you say, as that gets out down the line, will that impact a 19-year-old's thinking, or will the 19-year-old say, forget it, I've been told my entire life I'm the greatest, they're offering me a spot, and I'm going to go to that Power 5 program, and I'm going to be the greatest? Will you continue to believe that, and will you continue to see it? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. 12:23 on this Wednesday afternoon. Clint says he thinks that Jenkins will eventually be pretty good as well, and they need to give Amarian Brown an opportunity. Look, I agree on both of those points, and that's kind of where this conversation is especially going to shift shortly with J.C. Shurburtt, specifically more to South Carolina, and what the future of the offense looks like, because right now it looks pretty grim. It's been pretty bad, and they got to figure out why. Marcus Satterfield is meeting with the media now. He's already been asked about play calling and how one sticks with the game plan. His response, quote, "It does take a lot of trust. There are times when you have to trust your gut, trust your instinct, and make those adjustments at halftime." That is from Marcus Satterfield here, leading off his press conference on this Wednesday afternoon. That's fine, but there's a lot of people out there that are wondering why the strength of the team is struggling, and why guys who were lighting it up in fall camp, like Amarian Brown and E.J. Jenkins, aren't seeing the field.
It's fair to
answer those questions,
and those questions will be asked. They're fair questions to be asked. How he answers them will be very much along the lines of what we've been hearing. You're going to hear, I probably want to get Juju the ball a little bit more. I would expect that you hear that, because he said that before, and then Juju had, I think, 5 carries last week. I think you'll hear a lot of the trust it. We'll keep doing what we're doing, like what Beamer said. We've got the guys. We just have to execute better. I think you're going to keep hearing a lot of that. But what you see on the field, you need to see something change, whether it's a scheme change, whether it's just simply results changing. Something that stood out to me was this comment. Of the 51 plays, a lot of them were really, really, really good calls. Some of them were, but if I'm a fan of that team, and this was Beamer, if you're listening and not watching, he said that yesterday. If I'm a fan of a team that really hasn't been playing well offensively and hasn't been able to find the end zone on any type of consistent basis, and my coach says, of the 51 plays we ran in a losing effort where we scored one touchdown, a lot were really, really good, that would frustrate me because maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but it's execution. It's something because this is a 4-game sample size at this point. So I don't want to keep hearing everything. We're doing all the right things. It's just not working. If you're doing all the right things, then there should at least be, I'm not saying wins and losses, but progress, something you can see.
So, and again, we got to get to a break here in just a minute, but I'll make this comment and we'll come back to it with JC. If Shane Beamer is watching this right now, I hope he understands that what I'm about to say isn't necessarily critical, but I'm trying to piece together different data points and trying to compare them so I can understand more as a fan of the sport of football what I see out there.
Yeah.
And what kind of worries me and concerns me is, as I've heard over the last few weeks, timing. This guy was just a little bit off here, a little bit off there. Timing. Steve Spurrier ran timing plays over and over. That was his career. His quarterbacks, and I know literally all of them that played for him, it was all about throwing to a spot on the field. Okay? That's what timing was to him. He wasn't throwing to a receiver. Blake, don't throw the damn football to Sydney. Throw it to the spot and make Sydney go get it. That was Steve Spurrier's ski. He could. That's why he was so brilliant, and nobody will ever be him again because you can't just rip up a game plan on the sideline and create a whole new one within about 30 seconds based on one thing you saw, unless you're Steve Spurrier. But what I keep hearing, well, we just missed a block here at this time, and if he would have got it there, then he would have been off to the races. It's eerily similar to me to what we heard when Kurt Roper arrived with Will Muschamp in 2016. And what's also eerily similar is how many players talk about how brilliant Marcus Satterfield is. And I'm not questioning that. I think he is really, really smart. He's a football mind. I think he's really smart based on the information I have from the program.
Yeah,
okay?
and his career arc, clearly. He clearly knows football. He's clearly a good coach.
Yeah, like he's got it. But that's what everybody said about Kurt Roper. Oh my God, this guy's a brilliant football mind. So that leads to the question to me. All right, are you trying to implement something that just takes 3 and 4 years to get figured out in college football? Because you don't have that time anymore. Not with the transfer portal, not with the win now type stuff. Like you have to be able to put in a system that your kids can grasp and go out and execute. You got to dumb it down. Think about all the coordinators that Nick Saban has hired from the NFL. I mean, Bill O'Brien's there, Sark, Kiffin. These guys are brilliant football minds, but they're able to dumb things down for this level of the sport. Now, I'm not saying college kids are dumb. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying in the NFL, everything's all about timing and execution and this, that, and the other. At this level, that's why, to your point, like you said before, I'll never be on the train of a college team can beat a pro team. That's why, because they don't always think like that. And so I just hear things that are eerily similar to Kurt Roper. Smart, all these nuances of how an offensive scheme runs. The chalkboard looks amazing, but then you see it on the field and you're like, this isn't any good. What are we doing here? Well, if you just would have been here at this time and got that block down, that opens up a hole. Yeah, but he didn't. So, like, the whole play is on that split second of a half an inch as to whether he's standing there or not. That's concerning to me.
Yeah, and the tangible things you want to see as a casual fan, you can see progress, not necessarily in the wins and the losses. And that's what's so frustrating. You're hearing we're getting better, where it's one thing here, it's one thing there, but that's not what you're seeing, right? Seeing is believing. I'm loaded with cliches today. So it's
Santa Claus.
It's true.
Seeing is believing, huh?
Seeing is believing. So I'm telling you, I mean, you just want to see the fruits of the labor pay off. And you hoped that it was going to be last week. And now you're left hoping that it's going to be this week, but with a lot less confidence in the fan base that's what you'll see.
In college football, you're always going to try to be perfect, but you're not going to be. Clemson, even though their record may have been perfect when they won a national championship, they weren't perfect. Alabama has never been perfect. The record might be perfect, but they weren't perfect. You have to leave room for mistakes at this level. You can't have to have all 11 guys exactly perfect on every single play in order for that play to work. You've got to leave room in there for a mistake or two to be able to overcome that mistake. And that's what I'm fearful of here. I'm not saying it's a bad offense. I'm not saying he's a bad coordinator. I'm fearful that there's a disconnect between what's on those chalkboards and what's trying to happen on Saturdays, because if somebody throws something different at you and you aren't able to do exactly perfect the way you've been coached to do it and practice to do it those last 5 days, and you're off by a foot or by a half a second, and the whole play is blowing up because of that, that's not good in college football. That's how you get fired, and that's how you lose games.
And it's not, right? You're not saying it's every single play it's happening, because it's not, right? There are plenty of plays when all 11 guys are doing the thing. But why is it happening as consistently that on critical plays there are mental lapses? I mean, we heard miscommunication all week last week. Fine. What's the reason that there are periodic lapses, whether mental or physical? What's the reason? And forget the reason, because I kind of don't care. What's the fix?
Yeah.
Tell me how you're going to fix it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe JC knows. He's standing by and on deck right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right. We take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle. And we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity finance to new loan, subject to lender approval.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work. And two others you probably don't think much about: stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations: Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
Motley Rice LLC is a law firm with international reach, but it hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for people harmed by products including asbestos and talc exposure, medical drugs and devices, and also catastrophic injuries and auto recalls, including dangerous Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. Visit motleyrice.com. Thank you, Motley Rice, for supporting the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
Your online radio, the new online radio that makes you happy.
I got honeybee beating on my screen door. I got a little buzz in my head. So. Cause we come from a long line of sinners like me. La-di-da,
You were listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Don't cry for me when I'm gone. Just put a quarter in the jukebox and bring me back home.
Oh, cheer up, JC. The Chief is on. 12
in my head too. I mean, like, I like it now.
That's right. 12:35 on this Wednesday afternoon. My long-lost new friend, JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com, joining us from Chicago, Illinois, and not from Stadium Village Lofts in Columbia, South Carolina. I do, JC, before we get you in here, I do want to update people on what Marcus Satterfield just said to wrap up his press conference. And although this individual is at a opposing network of the Big Spurs, I will give him credit because it was a great question by Colin Taylor with Gamecock Central. By the way, he's a very nice guy, handsomely dressed, and eats dinosaur chicken nuggets. He asked Marcus Satterfield, how do you grade yourself through 4 games? And Marcus Satterfield gave himself a C-. So it was a pretty honest moment there after Sat just said about 6 or 7 times in a matter of a minute, we have to run the football in order to be successful. But the how, that hasn't been answered yet. How are you doing, JC?
Well, obviously I had a big time over the weekend. I think I need a haircut.
And a shower.
My face looks really red on the screen, but it's doing that on Zoom too. So I don't know. Maybe I need a makeup artist whenever I come on this thing. But anyway, I'm fine. Had a big time. Enjoyed seeing you. Enjoyed seeing Michael Flint, Matt Campbell, Soup. Got to meet him for the first time. One of those old-timey, good Lord. Recent historical Gamecock baseball players. He's not that old. You think I'm like meeting Ty Cobb or something, you know.
Wait a second.
Cobb with Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
His old crotchety. He looked like Axl Rose in the Don't Cry video out in the snow drinking and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I digress. But great time, JB. Certainly always great to get home.
Yeah.
People that were with me obviously enjoyed it. Girlfriend, her first time at Williams-Brice, she was blown away. Nice. Looking forward to getting back down. But like I said on my podcast this week, it was a sad outcome. And I use the word sad, not necessarily derogatory, like Spur used to. Yeah, that was sad.
Yeah.
But kind of like in the sense of, here's another loss to Kentucky you probably should have had. Here's another time you shot yourself in the foot. We said all week. What did I say all week? And whatever. You can keep Marcus Satterfield, goodness gracious, is just stating the obvious. Of course you need to run the football. And that was the whole key to the game last week. And you got outrushed 230-58.
Yep.
And the defense gave you 3 turnovers. You could have maybe overcome Rodriguez and Smoke getting theirs. But you did nothing. You did nothing on the ground. There's no excuse for what's happening right now. And hopefully they have to get it corrected. And they can say all they want that, well, we're getting a little better the last couple of weeks. Well, what are you talking about? I'm going to let everybody in a little scoop here. As everybody knows, I used to work in kind of national college football. I have friends all over the place. And I talked to a Power 5 offensive coach and a Power 5 personnel director at schools that are winning more than Carolina and scoring more than they are right now, that are having offensive line issues, that said we trade for that line at South Carolina right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to hear, and eventually, if they don't turn it around, you'll hear this narrative that they just got to recruit their way out of it because the players aren't any good. No,
that's wrong. It's not true.
Was this going to be the recreation of the Hogs from the Washington Redskins? Darren knows a little bit about that, don't you, Darren?
Of course. That should be the new nickname. But we don't need to go down that road.
Or the 95 Nebraska Cornhuskers or Alabama at any point? No. But this should be at least a middle-of-the-pack offensive line in the SEC. And right now they're playing and executing like the worst offensive line in the SEC, maybe outside of Vanderbilt. But, so look, I don't think anybody, you're supposed to maximize your talent, right? I don't think that they took over this loaded team. But I think they took over a team that in one phase of the game in particular is better than it's played. And I'll give you the hard, cold facts and the numbers. And I don't see that much improvement. I see, if they don't miss this block here, well, the same things happened in other games. So they need to correct it because the players are obviously confused. So looking at it, in the last 7 halves of football this season, and they've played 4 games, so there's only been 8 total. The South Carolina offense has scored 4 touchdowns. That's about 1 touchdown a game. They've scored 1 touchdown a game against FBS opponents. It's mind-blowing. And like I said, I don't think anybody expected the Gamecocks to go up and down the field and, put a bunch of points on the board like Ole Miss and Alabama. But I do think they expected something better than the 1999 offense. And that's statistically where they're trending right now. And look, I don't like to get mad about interviews or whatever. I mean, what's Marcus Lattimore? Well, I called him Lattimore again. Satterfield's supposed to say. Is he supposed to sit there and just go, yeah, I suck, whatever? But no, I'd grade him a D. C- is too high, in my opinion, right now, because you just have to look at the results. It's a results business, guys. You can say you're building all you want, but last time I checked, this was not bottom of the barrel SEC talent. This was about, lower middle of the pack. And the concern with the talent was at receiver. And those guys have actually played better than people thought. It's mind-blowing. And all roads lead to this is not being taught and communicated to your players. And I think a key in coaching is this. Number one, you have to put your best players on the field. Number two, you have to put them in position to succeed. And to me, just looking at it from that standpoint, those have been the 2 big things that have been missing on the offensive side of the ball. I think the defense has got it down pat, along with the offense playing, really tight, playing not to make mistakes, that kind of thing. You look out there, the defense is flying around the field. The offense looks like they've got, corn cobs shoved up their butt. And then there's just baffling things that make no sense. Like why is the quarterback shoving the running back in the back when he gets the ball? I've never seen that before. Never. Mm-hmm. There's enough trouble running the football right now. Why is the quarterback shoving the guy into the hole? It's knocking him off balance. Somebody tell him to stop. Stop that, Luke. Don't do it anymore.
You can do that on the goal line if you'd like.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen guys like push. They pushed Marcus in down in Florida that time, but not like. What is that?
Yeah.
How does that help? Running the football is all about balance and vision. Somebody's just going to shove you in the back. That's going, before you hit the hole. Come on, man. But anyway, and that's baffling. So there's been some baffling things about it, and they absolutely have to get it correct. South Carolina could lose every game left on its schedule, including Troy and Vanderbilt, if they don't start scoring more touchdowns. So no matter how they have to do it, they have to find a way, and all roads lead to these guys are confused right now, and that's up to the coaches. That's up to the Marcus Satterfield and whoever else to fix it.
So I before you came on, JC, I was telling Darren one of my fears is the similar I'm not exactly sure how to term it, but I'm comparing the first year of Kurt Roper to the first year of Marcus Satterfield, and the similarities that I continue to hear publicly about both of these guys. And if you go back to when Roper was first hired, I think, remember when Will Muschamp made the statement, heck, if I would have had him at Florida, I'd probably still be there. There was this sentiment that Kurt Roper was a brilliant offensive mind. He could draw it up on a chalkboard. They did a whole little SEC network 30-minute show with him, if you remember that. Matt Stinchcomb sat there in the offensive room and all this stuff, and you figured out real quick, this guy he's pretty smart. He understands offense. He understands X's and O's. He understands how to design things. And when I say that there was this sentiment that he was a really smart offensive mind, Kurt Roper is a really smart offensive mind. Steve Spurrier, one of the most brilliant offensive minds we've ever been around. Marcus Satterfield, by all accounts, is a brilliant offensive mind, and I hear a lot of the players, including Juju McDowell yesterday, say the same things that players were saying about Kurt Roper. But the problem was there was a disconnect between what you went over in the classroom and how those plays were called and executed on the field on Saturday. Spurrier didn't have that problem. No. Steve was able to communicate exactly what needed to happen, and he made sure that everybody just understood what they needed to do in order for this thing to go out and execute itself. So I guess what I'm getting at is that's my fear, is that there's a really smart guy in there, and I respect Marcus Satterfield, and I respect his offensive mind. But my fear is, dating back to the first year under Coach Muschamp, that whatever's going on upstairs somehow can't get translated downstairs and out onto the field, because when you got an offense in college football, JC, you have to leave room. You have to leave room for mistakes. And if you make a mistake, still be able to succeed on that play. Alabama might have had a perfect record a few years. Clemson might have had a perfect record, but it didn't mean they were perfect football teams. They still made mistakes, but they were able to be successful and overcome those mistakes because they dumbed things down a little bit. My fear is that if your foot isn't, a half a second this way, or you're a half a second off on this timing play and the whole play blows up, there's not enough room for those mistakes. And that means your offense is, to be honest, garbage.
Yeah, because you have to have perfection. And look, it's eerily. And first of all, I'll just point this out. Once they started, did the right thing and started Jake Bentley in 2016, Roper's first year, 34 points, 24 points, 31 points, 44 points, 39 points against teams they really had a shot at. Florida and Clemson, they probably didn't. And I thought Roper called a crappy game at Florida and then had a boneheaded idea at Clemson. But Carolina probably was not going to win those games anyway, just because they were both overwhelmingly good on defense that season. But I don't want to sell Kurt Roper short, guys, because this offense, like I said, it's not done much, and they're not sitting out there depending on Brandon McElwain as a true freshman to run around and make plays. They have more, if you remember in 2016 when they were really struggling, Dabo Samuel was hurt. Rico Dowdle was hurt. They didn't really have ideal backs. Their offensive line was a mess. You could tell when they took the field, this is not a good offense. Mm-hmm. These guys, you're like, well, you've got Marshawn Lloyd. He gets, 14 carries, 7 carries, 5 carries, 1. Kevin Harris missed the whole offseason. He gets 12, and then McDowell, who I thought did some good things against Kentucky, and they got him the ball. He gets 5. Now Zaquandre White, who now he's getting none. Highest yards per carry on the game. They will not, Jaheim Bell does not get the targets. They don't use him in the run game as much. I thought the first drive of the second half, you look at it and you go, that's good. And then they kind of went away from everything. And I think when you can't run the football, I think there are games where you have to be stubborn with it. But then I think there are games, when your defense is playing pretty well and you're just not going anywhere, you can't just keep going to the same well over and over and over again. And by the time Roper was done at Carolina, that's kind of what he was doing. And I think some of these guys, if you notice what Roper did, when they got fired from Florida, there was that 1 year. He went to the Browns and he learned all this new NFL stuff from the Browns. And look,
right.
I've said from the start, the pro style offense concepts for college these days, you look at the Joe Brady's, we've heard that name of the world and stuff like that. They can work. But what I didn't anticipate is maybe some of these guys coming back and making it overly complicated because it's college still. You can't have a sophisticated NFL offense, and the same types of things don't work at both levels. And I've always said historically, before this trend started happening, that you can't run a pro-style offense at South Carolina, and you absolutely cannot unless it's some sort of hybrid, okay? So strip out the crap, Nobody's asking you to go beat the Green Bay Packers, okay? Some days it may feel like that in the SEC. This needs to be a college offense that's simple to learn and fun for guys to play in. And it just obviously right now isn't. And it's disappointing because, these guys up front on the offensive line, we have all seen them on teams that have less playmakers, guys, go out and make plays and block and open holes, and everybody talks about Kevin Harris last year. You look at the year before, South Carolina was able to run the football in a lot of games, Kentucky included, 247 with Feaster and Dowdle. Arguably, they've got guys that have more raw talent than those guys, Arguably, they're good at tight end. Then you look at the receiver position and, I start thinking, I'm like, well, hell, if you're going to take these deep shots, you got a kid in Amarian Brown that's really what he did at Georgia Tech his freshman year. He wasn't really a catch it and run guy. Where are the deep chances to a guy like that with legit speed that's going to run by the defense? Now, I think Josh Vann, obviously, Doty missed him on a good call. And I think the vertical passing game, when they're able to get it off, really isn't that bad. But I think, in order to be able to do that successfully and to score, they got to get the run game going. And it's just a shame because I just don't think that it's a talent issue. I think you have to call it coaching. It's correctable, but I just think, and I said this all week last week, and honestly, I don't agree with Marcus Satterfield at all that things went better against Kentucky. I just don't. I mean, that game, you had one drive, and you took over in their territory how many times? A bunch, and you couldn't get it done. So, look, it's a bottom line business. It's just the bottom line, and the bottom line is things need to change in a hurry. Vanderbilt can beat them. Troy can beat them 10-9, 13-10, 13-12.
Yep. That's
the sad reality of this, guys. And I've said you can win with defense these days. I think it's clear. You look around the country, everybody's like offense, offense, offense. Well, last year was a COVID year. There was no crowd, et cetera. We've gotten into that. But you're going to lose 10-7, 10-9 if you can't score, because you can't ask those guys on defense to go out and get a pick six every game and to hold up every game when you can't move the football. And so that's the bottom line there. I think you have to simplify. You have to find what they do right. I would get rid of the inside zone being your base run play, guys. I may be completely stupid and wrong about this, but I watch NFL football, and there's NFL teams with bad offenses like the Bears and Matt Nagy, who's supposed to be an offensive genius. He'll just run that inside zone over and over again. They go 2 feet, 3 feet, and then it's 3rd and 7. Carolina's done pretty well when they've run it to the outside or run power. I think these days, the inside zone's been around for like 15 years. Everybody loves it and great, but the teams that do it well really have a lot of talent. The teams that don't. Okay, or the teams that don't know when to call it, don't. But you can always run power. And if you look at kind of how they've been successful running the ball the last few years, South Carolina's offensive line, they can play that game. They can mano-a-mano, line up, blow people off the ball at times, not all the time, at times. And I'd like to see them do more of that. When they did that the other night, they were more successful. But I'd like to see them get away from that and open it up. I mentioned today there's too many daggone people around the football every single play, offense and defense. You have receivers right next to each other in patterns.
Yeah.
I've never seen that. It's embarrassing. And I know it's not by design. And so, you have to be able to, and I thought earlier this week, it may just be as simple as spread the field to run it and throw it to run it. There's no shame in that. You shouldn't, sit there and try to put a square peg in a round hole. And I think I told everybody, and I was talking about personnel, but I think I told everybody that biggest challenge this year on offense for the coaches is going to be don't put a square peg in a round hole, play your best players, get them in the right positions, and who knows if that's really happening or not. So there's my little rant on the offense. And again, some of these people are like, fire him now or whatever. You can't fire somebody 4 games into a season. I just know that things need to turn around, or Carolina is not going to – it's not just going to be a disappointing year. It's going to be a year where they actually go backward in terms of results and outcomes. And none of us want that. And quite frankly, nobody should have expected that this season. You should have expected some progress after the disaster of the last 2. And quite frankly, for 75% of the team, or 66.7% of the team, it's been a huge step forward.
12:56 on a Wednesday afternoon. To Adam's point, Auburn did just fire somebody 4 games. Their wide receivers coach 4 games in, he's out. But to your point, I just don't know that. First of all, I don't believe that's being considered at all by Shane Beamer. I think that they're going, we got to fix this thing. JC, you and I, we got to hit a timeout in just a second. And I truly believe this. You and I were texting a little bit this morning. This team. I think this defense is good enough to still achieve some goals, which the ultimate goal, I believe, for this football team coming into the year was to make it to a bowl game. However they figure out a way to do that, you get there. And I texted you this morning, and this might sound crazy. This team's got to find a way to get 24 points on the board every game. I think this defense is good enough to keep teams at 24 or under. They got to score 24 points. I mean, how do you get to 24? If I'm Coach Beamer, get me to 24. And anything over that's going to be gravy. But you got to get me to 24 each week, because this defense, I think, is going to be good enough, not in every game, but in most of them, to satisfy that number for the offense. So we'll come back to that. Certainly, there were a bunch of recruits on campus. We'll hit on a little bit of that with JC. It's a huge weekend in the SEC coming up, including for South Carolina. You sure don't want to lose to Troy. And right now they're only 7-point favorites at home against the Sun Belt's Trojans. So all that is ahead. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We'll be right back. Right here in our backyard is Motley Rice LLC, a law firm that hasn't lost its Carolina roots. The Motley Rice team fights every day for South Carolinians who were injured while traveling by plane or bus, harmed by medical drugs and devices, or burdened by dangerous auto recalls, including Takata airbags. Motley Rice is headquartered in Mount Pleasant at 28 Bridgeside Boulevard. We are honored to have Motley Rice as a sponsor for the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
People don't like to get stuck in traffic, stuck in the mud, stuck at work, and to others you probably don't think much about, stuck with a big medical bill or stuck with a healthcare program that doesn't fit who you are. Experience true medical freedom with Share Healthcare. More affordable, more options, user-friendly, and biblically sound. You can join right now. Explore a new way to show you care with Share Healthcare. Join us today at sharehealthcare.com. sharehealthcare.com.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Live, loud, and online.
Final hour, Wednesday afternoon, September the 29th. Just one more day in September. Come on, cool weather. Come on. It's football season. The JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven, of course, by Stokes Volkswagen. JB and Darren. Follow us on social media at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Motley Rice fights hard for Americans every day, injured while traveling by plane or bus, or if you've been harmed by a medical drug or device, or if you've had an issue with Takata airbags. You should know about that by now. They are the lead litigators, once again, for a major case in America. Motley Rice, motleyrice.com. If you or someone you know has been affected, motleyrice.com. We certainly appreciate Joe Rice and his family and in support of ours here at JB and Goldwater. And that includes, as part of our family, JC Shurburtt, who owns the BigSpur.com. All right, part two, JC. Obviously, JC, I knew that today was going to be a lot about the offense because, it's been bad. And all these people that are commenting here, they're all in the same boat that we are. We're not offensive coordinators. We're not head coaches. We're not offensive geniuses. All we can do is listen to people that probably know a little bit more than us and try to utilize that information to the best of our ability to understand what in the heck's going on. But we all want answers, and we all try to keep having the same conversations to find those answers, and seemingly nobody has them to this point. We're just going to have to see it on the field. But the big question is the offensive coordinator at South Carolina capable of providing more success than we've seen through the first 16 quarters of the year?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. And, it's just got to be better on game days. And there's guys, folks, all over the sport that can draw it up. I mean, and I use this analogy. My good friend Keith Alsep used this analogy one time to me. I think it was Keith. I want to give him credit for that, just in case. So
credit to you, Keith. You're the man.
Here it is. You know everything about the airplane. You know what all the gadgets do. You know, like, all the emergency protocols. You know how to even dump fuel. You know like all this stuff. You know how to take care of it. You know, put water in it. You know where every seat is. You know what everything does. You know the different types of airplanes. You're familiar with airplanes. You love aviation. You hang out at the airport. But here's the question. Can you fly the plane?
Yeah.
You know, you could tell you could probably teach a course and be great in ground school. But can you fly the plane? Can you fly the plane? Are you Tom Cruise or are you Kelly McGillis? That's the question. You know, I mean, and there are a lot of guys, and I'm not making a final judgment on Marcus Satterfield. Why do I keep calling him Marcus Lattimore? Satterfield at all. In fact, you know, they're right. There are some plays they were close on, but to the untrained and trained eye alike, and you know, I don't just blurt things out. I usually talk to people that actually have done it and that watch it and get their take on it too. The same things keep happening. And the same plays keep getting blown up in the backfield and the mistakes keep getting made. And the offensive line doesn't look, they look like a bunch of freshmen. You know, you don't play freshmen because they can't get assignments down and things like that. It's not necessarily physical all the time. You don't play freshmen because they don't know what to do. None of these guys look like they know what to do, and they've got 100 starts between all of them. I mean, Jalen Nichols looks like a completely different player than the guy that lined up at right tackle and competed at Georgia in 2019. But that's the question that I think generally that goes into play calling. You know, I thought Kurt Roper could not fly the plane, although – you know, he didn't crash and burn right away, you know, as far as he did have some good flights there, you know. But right now I've just seen nothing out of this offense that indicates, well, you know, wow, when Marcus Satterfield gets in a rhythm, he's a really good play caller. All that doesn't mean he's not, because it very well could just be execution. And if execution's bad through 4 games, you probably need to do something different. You know, and like a buddy of mine in coaching said the other day, this stuff's not that hard, you know, and it looks like the offensive line this year looks like the secondary last year. Confused, playing slow, lack of communication, all that. And so, you know, there we go about that. I mean, so I don't know if Marcus Satterfield's a good play caller or not. But I haven't changed my stance on that. I said that all summer. I said, well, it looks good on paper, but when you get in there, I've seen it too many times. Guys that can tell you everything about it, they can get on the chalkboard, they sound like wizards, but when you get in the game, there's no magic. And I think you need a little magic to be a good play caller in this game these days. You know, not everybody's going to be perfect, but heck, I mean, Brian McClendon, who Gamecock fans wanted gone immediately and who got fired, had a better debut than Satterfield, you know, calling plays in terms of rhythm and things like that. But he also had, you know, more experienced quarterback and all that good stuff. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it changes this weekend. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's same old, same old. I'm not expecting the Gamecocks to score a bunch of points or to be perfect. But they got to get – in 2 weeks, they got to go to Tennessee. Tennessee, with not as much talent on their roster as South Carolina right now, will blow the doors off the Gamecocks if they're not careful, because, you know, their offense is all tempo. The defense is going to get worn out quickly. And so they got to stay on the field. They got to run the ball to have any chance to win in Knoxville. So they better fix it soon, or it's just going to be a disappointing year. And then if that's the case, you really feel sorry, you know, for the personnel, for the special teams, for the defense, and for a lot of the coaches that, you know, they've taken care of business this year, man. You know, and so finally, I'll leave it at this. You watch the defense, and R.J. Roderick had a great quote today. We're playing more free, and we can just go and sort of do our thing, as opposed to the very structured deal with, you know, the Muschamp defense, which Tarash Robinson probably never really could call to be effective, and everybody was confused. But I digress. and I think the key is get the offense playing as free as that defense is playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you're onto something. And if you don't do it, it's a failure. And it's unfortunate because there really shouldn't be year one failures. You should actually, coming off, 19 to 27 games lost in the SEC, and the Gamecocks, by the way, now have an 8-game Southeastern Conference losing streak, FYI, as a program. Coming off a bunch of losses, this should be about, okay, we're going to go out and show marked improvement in all the phases of the game, and be better. And you build. And look, maybe if you lose games, so what? So what? But when you blow games that you should have won, those are what's called missed opportunities. And that's what sank the last coaching staff here. I think Shane Beamer is going to be a coach at South Carolina for a long time. And I hope Marcus Satterfield's the offensive coordinator at South Carolina for a long time because that means he's doing something right. I mean, I think the coaching staff is outstanding. But, they have to be embarrassed by what's happening so far. And so, it has to be fixed. And I said it last week sort of in a nice way, and I sound a little more forceful this week. And so this is going to be the last time I really go on a rant about it. It's just going to be sort of is what it is. And we'll just go from there after that. But it just, it was shockingly bad the other night that the offense just couldn't get out of its own way. I mean, really, honest to God, guys, reminded me of the Lou Holtz offense in 1999. And it's crazy because during the preseason, I soundly rejected any Kurt Roper comparisons. Well, it's looking, there you go. And I soundly rejected any comparisons to the 99 team. And this offense, without all the injuries that team had, just isn't it has had similar results. It's shocking. It's bad. It's awful. They haven't played – besides Georgia, which was actually okay, they haven't played a bunch of juggernauts on defense, guys. So anyway, what else? To quote Steve Spur, well, what else we want to talk about?
Well, I want to ask you this. I want to visit one more thing before we get off it because you referenced talking to some of your coaches in the business, some sources that you've got, and they've talked about that they'd like the talent that's on the Gamecocks offensive line. You just mentioned one of them saying it's not that hard. So in their eyes, how easy is it to fix what's happening? What's going wrong? Why isn't the communication there right now?
Coaching. Let me ask you this. Let me ask this a different way. I hear what Darren. It's a good question. Let me ask it this way. This is not a fair question because it's impossible for this to be the scenario. But let me ask your opinion on this answer. If Mike Bobo was calling plays on Saturday night, would Carolina have won that game against Kentucky?
Yes. And that's just because, Mike Bobo's calling plays, and that's not a fair question. And
it's not.
But as a point of reference,
my question was more fair.
Yeah. In year two of a system, when you got Harris back and kind of how to dial it up, and Doty's back, and you've kind of been coaching him up in the system, and obviously Mike Bobo was very good at throwing to the tight end. You got talent there. This all this assumes Josh Vann makes his improvement, Jalen Brooks makes his improvement, and all that. So yeah, absolutely. I think I think that there wouldn't be this learning curve right now. Because
I just think it's very simple, JC. I think that Mike Bobo has been calling plays a long time. He's able to identify strengths and weaknesses pretty quickly. And although last year Carolina fans were not happy with a lot of his decisions, most notably, obviously, starting Colin Hill over Ryan Olinsky, who can't even crack the depth chart in Northwestern. At the end of the day, Mike Bobo knew exactly what his strengths and weaknesses were, and you saw them. You just were who you were.
And I'm not just talking about play to down, play to play calling, right? I thought Bobo had a good year. The results weren't what people want, but you got one receiver, you got one running back, and another guy you kind of bring in to play running back to give the running back a rest. You got issues at quarterback. Then you play a freshman. You got one tight end. Everybody's hurt. That's kind of par for the course.
You had a half a tight end because everybody last year dropped the football except for Shi Smith. Everybody knew when they threw the football it was going to Shi Smith. They still did it. He still caught
Shi
it.
was open a bunch.
And everybody knew when they handed it off that it was going to Kevin Harris, and he still ran for 1,200 yards. I don't want Marcus. I don't want anybody to misunderstand what I'm saying. I don't think Marcus Satterfield is bad. I think they got a long ways to go, and it's very frustrating to see the strength of your football team, which you thought was the strength of your football team for 7 months, be the weakness.
I understand Clemson struggling right now in kind of the same manner, although I think their quarterback probably, and this may be a controversial opinion. I try to stay away from controversial Clemson opinions, but I've never been sold on DJ for whatever reason. Think he has a rocket arm. Just don't know that he's a great player like Trevor and Deshaun. And really even a tier below that. Maybe he wins the Heisman next year. Who knows? But you look at Clemson, you lose a first-round draft pick in Travis Etienne. You've had Chaz Malusi and DeMarcus Bowman leave. Kobe Pryor or Pace or whatever he's calling himself these days, probably not. Will Shipley's now hurt. Clemson has some reasons for not being able to run the ball. They have some reasons to not be able to run the ball. But South Carolina doesn't really have any excuses. And to your point about Bobo, JB, I think obviously the down-to-down play calling, when you've got 17 years experience or however much he has in the SEC, he sort of knows what to do and when, and I thought he was good last year. But I think more importantly, Mike, the second year running his scheme, because a lot of this, it's new that all these guys are doing. If it wasn't new, these guys are doing the same thing they did last year, and the newness obviously has the offensive line confused as hell. And there's no going back and saying, all right, let's get Wolford's blocking scheme out of the drawer and implement it in 1 week. There's no doing that. But I also don't think that playing offensive line in college football these days necessarily needs to resemble a interpretive or synchronized swimming competition. Which is what it seems like there's a lot of, okay, now you get this guy, now you get this guy, no, we're going to slide this here. That's NFL stuff, and that's great. But, again, it's college football.
Yeah.
And I think Carolina, if you look at the players they have now on the O-line, and again, I'm not saying they're elite. I'm not saying they're best in the SEC. They're middle of the pack, probably. At the end of the day, really good run blocking over their careers, struggle a bit against big-ass edge rushers and blitzes at times. But when they've been at their best, guys, and you think about the Georgia win in 2019 and the Kentucky win in 2019 and, all the games where Kevin Harris ran wild last year and all that, when they've been successful, they just line up and ran at people, And I know it's not as simple as just saying, as Muschamp, you say, get a hat on a hat and roll. But, even this team this year, when they run what's called power, they tend to get more yards. And so, look, that's my take on that is that, it's probably in their best interest to scrap the fancy schmancy stuff and start just trying to physically run up people's butt. And I think you accomplish that and have more room to do it if you're a little more creative on first and second down instead of forcing the issue and maybe throw to set it up or spread the field and run. You remember Lou Holtz to Skip Holtz, 99 to 2000. How did that team improve so much on offense? Well, number one, they said Ryan Brewer is our fourth team running back, but he could be our first team slot receiver. So, there's some guys like that on the roster right now. And then they're like, we're going to just, instead of running it up in there using the I formation, we're going to spread the field and run the football. My son Skip has a plan. And that's exactly what happened. And think about the difference between that offense and the 99. Now, the 99 team had a lot of injuries, but right now we're looking at 99 type results. So And they do have spread formations. They ran the other night. And, I don't know that Kentucky necessarily crowded the box, but there's too many daggum people. Too many daggum people, within the realm of the ball. So spread it out and try to run it, try to throw it to run it. And then when you get a chance to run it at them, do a little of that ground and pound kind of stuff. And they have the ground and pound, pin and pull. There's a play called duo that everybody likes, And I don't know if these are Carolina's terms. These are just general terms that I've picked up. I'm not an X's and O's guy. But I know sort of like, okay, why does this look like synchronized swimming when, last year and against Georgia in 2019 with Brian McClendon wasn't Mike Bowe, was Brian McClendon calling the plays. Carolina would line up, and when they line up and ran it at people, they typically did pretty good. And I love Rico Dowdle, love Tavian Feaster, both really good backs, but they're not Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd, And my final point is this. I understand you can't run running back rotation like an NFL preseason game, right? But I don't think Marshawn Lloyd, based on his gameplay, and I don't know what he's doing in practice, and if he's fumbled it all over the place in practice, God forgive me for saying, God, Beamer and Marcus Satterfield, forgive me for saying this. He's close to breaking a big one. He's had no room to run. If you look at him run, he's got really quick feet. Yeah. He accelerates. And, I think in the first game, he got so excited. It's his first football game in forever. He kind of tripped and fell down and stuff like that. He's gone from 14 carries to 7 carries to 5 carries to 1 against the Wildcats. No disrespect to Kevin Harris, but like about the 5th time he ran for no gain, maybe you change it up to your 225-pound stud guy that's elusive and let him have a chance. And so I really don't understand some of the failure to get the ball in the hands of guys like Marshawn Lloyd, Jaheim Bell, E.J. Jenkins, if you will, Amari and Brown on deep plays. I mean, I think last year's problems can lay at the feet of personnel directly. I don't know, with the emergence of Van and some other receivers and receivers not being all that bad. And certainly they have a quarterback that can throw it some. Alois Green. I don't know that you can lay it at the feet of personnel at all. And all right, so that's it. I'm going to stop talking about this now.
122 on this Wednesday afternoon. JC Shurburtt, owner of the BigSpur.com. On the other side of the ball, though, JC, they've been pretty good. And I know that Kentucky got their yards on the ground the other night. Again, a lot of that can still lay at the feet of the offense. You can't do anything about it. You got to punt it back over to the Wildcats. That's what they do. They have a lead. They're going to try to run the football and grind down that clock and protect the lead. And that's what they did the other night to hang on in Williams-Brice Stadium. But overall, this defense has been opportunistic. They've tackled well, and the secondary has played. The Torian Gray hire right now looks beyond brilliant. He has that group playing incredibly, incredibly well. Damani Staley's playing the best football of his career, and I get it. He's been around here for pretty much since his dad left in 1996, but he's never played at this level. They're talented up front. They get guys in and out. They're always fresh. As bad as the offense is, and I know that's where everybody wants to circle the drains on the Gamecocks, JC, we do need to give a lot of credit to the defense. We need to give a lot of credit to the special teams. They're well coached. They're disciplined. And, they're going to give South Carolina a chance if they can find a way to just put a couple more touchdowns on the board.
Yeah, I think so. And, look, the defense did not play perfect the other night, right? Of course, they probably would have had to have had a chance to win. But when you can force turnovers, and what's great to see about the defensive side of the ball is for years, we've been sitting here talking about the talent on defense. And then we get to the season, and Carolina gives up 20, 30 points and a bunch of yards a game, and you're grumbling. And then we get to the draft, and you're like, well, how the hell did this defense give up so many points and yards?
Right.
And so it's good to see this group and guys that have caught a lot of crap. honestly. R.J. Roderick, think about how much crap he caught last year. Jalen Foster leads the – if you'd have told me the day before the opener, JC, in 4 weeks, South Carolina's going to be 2-2, I'd be like, I'm disappointed they lost to Kentucky or East Carolina, but tell me how it's gone. And you just said, well, you're going to crap your britches because Jalen Foster leads the nation.
Here we go again.
Not just the SEC, the nation in interceptions. And Kevin Harris and Marshawn Lloyd both have less than 100 yards rushing for the season.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have believed you. I said, you're crazy. I just said, all right, look, if you're right about that, I'll move to Bangladesh. And I'd be in Bangladesh right now. All right. All right. The Nick Saban. All right. Bangladesh. All right.
I hear.
Anyway, look. But it's good. Foster caught crap. R.J. Roderick caught crap. Cam Smith prematurely caught a lot of crap.
Yeah.
He's playing well. Darius Rush, people were open. The only time everybody ever mentioned Rush was number one. That's the only guy Lance Thompson ever signed. And they'd laugh. And then number two, why haven't they processed him yet? He needs to transfer. Mm-hmm. That kind of crap, okay? He's playing well. Damani Staley, as you mentioned, takes a load of crap. Brad Johnson, load of crap. All right? Some of the D linemen, like Jabari Ellis, load of crap. And all these guys now all of a sudden are, playing their butts off, maximizing their talent. And I do mean maximizing. And like I said, this defense isn't perfect. And there's going to be a game or two this year where you're like, man, they can't stop these guys. I mean, that's just life in the SEC. And, they don't have a bunch of All-Americans on that side of the ball. But it's refreshing to see that. And then Pete Limbo in general, it's no surprise why he was winning as a head coach at Ball State because he's a great personality and probably one of the best special teams coordinators in America. And so 2/3 of the phases of the game are fine. I think Shane Beamer's culture, really it just gets back to the offense. But back to the defense, there's just a lot of guys that have overcome. You got to attribute that, number one, to a great plan by Clayton White to run the defense, simplify things, have fun playing football. And they have fun playing football. And then in the defensive backfield, Torian Gray. I mean, Torian Gray, I've always thought was probably a top 2 defensive backs coach in the country. And I thought that when he was at Virginia Tech, Florida, wherever. And the way he's developed guys. And like a guy like David Spalding forced a fumble the other night.
Right.
Hardly played at Georgia Southern. Carlins Platel played at Assumption. He's getting in there knocking people's what's off. So I couldn't be more proud of the individuals there. The collective, you can't give up 230 rushing yards. They need to stop the run better starting this weekend. Hopefully the kid from Hartsville doesn't run all over them, Tennessee, the next week. But you feel good about them getting there. And then you feel good about, too, most of the time, not all the time, because there was one drive after the touchdown that lasted way too long. They couldn't get off the field. There were some penalties and stuff. But most of the time, they've been good at getting off the field and getting stops. Whether it's by turnover, even when the other team drives a little bit, they're good at getting off the field. You got to really credit them for that. So, and then I'll add one more obvious part of special teams. Who here thought Parker White was hitting that 54-yarder? Not I, said the JC. I was like, oh, they're 54-yarder. I was like, is Will Muschamp coaching did he call Beamer and tell him, when you get to the 40, just roll Parker White out there and kick it. But I'll give Muschamp credit. He had an unshakable faith in Parker White. Yeah. All right, we're going to try from 63. Let's go.
Yeah.
And he hit it. And he's kicked really, really well this year. So credit Pete Limbo with that as well. The holds have been, there's just a lot to like. And that's, I think, why I'm fired up is because there's one squeaky wheel right now.
Yeah.
And that's not fair to quote Nick Saban again, that's not fair to anyone in the organization.
Yeah.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Well, they better put some better put some WD-40 on it, because these next 3 games are winnable, and as you mentioned, they're also all losable. But these next 3 games are going to determine whether you have a really, really, really bad year, and all that momentum that you built through recruiting in the summer and the positivity and all that's gone. It's out the door. Or you have a decent turnaround. Hey, we're headed in the right direction. Or you have, I don't know how they did it, but my God, credit to Shane Beamer. They had a hell of a year getting to a bowl game. It all hinges on the next 3 games, period, the end. So, they got to win more than likely at least 2 of them. And if you win 3, then, hey, you're 5-2.
I'll say this too. It's, and I just got done taping a JC and Morgan podcast, which everybody can catch later today with me and Mike. We were talking about college football in general. It's a weird year. It's shaping up to be probably one of the more chaotic years since 2007. And, not anything can happen, right? So, I mean, look, Texas A&M can't score right now. Clemson can't score right now. Auburn's got serious issues on the offensive line. Missouri's defense is garbage. All right. Tennessee, I think some people like it because, they put up big scores against bad teams, but that's Josh Heupel's entire career. Okay. Yeah. There's nothing new there. Florida's better than expected, though. And I think some people kind of thought Florida may take a step back. So, even when they get to the second half, it's never over till it's over. But I agree with you. These next 3 games are critical. I'd throw in the next 4 because, listen, guys, if Texas A&M can't fix their offense, I mean, they've scored a grand total of 20 combined points against Colorado and Arkansas. And we'll see what they do against Mississippi State this weekend. But that could be one of those closer Texas A&M Carolina games. And Missouri could be a game. There's just a lot of options. And the shame of it is, Gamecock fans, and this is why you should be mad, if this doesn't get fixed. You should be a little salty. I don't know that Clemson can completely fix their issues. They're not sitting there with 4 running backs they expected to be really good. They're kind of down there right now. They're not sitting there with, a bunch of tight ends that can compensate for their receiver issues. They're sitting on a lot of injuries, and there's a lot of guys on that roster that aren't from South Carolina. And so here's the thing: unless look, Clemson could turn it around, win the ACC, do whatever, and I'm not counting them out. But as things stand today, South Carolina has a shot to win that game.
Yeah.
Bottom line. I mean, that's the truth.
Honestly,
that's the truth.
Without this becoming very gimmicky, which it always is when people do this. If Carolina could just seriously, I mean, this is they've had. I'm not saying they're going to do it. Their problems are real on the offensive side of the football. As Darren said, sometimes you just kind of are who you are. But let's say they turn into they are who they haven't been. Is there what game is truly left on the schedule that you say, well, it's unwinnable?
None. I mean, and that's
point. Get 24 points, man. Score 24.
Yeah, Clemson and Texas A&M were the ones you said that it's going to be tough at the beginning of the year, but you expected them to be top 10 teams. Now, this ESPN FPI currently predicts Clemson 87% chance of victory. but I'm telling you, Clemson's issues are the same as South Carolina's in a lot of ways on offense, but there's also like less solutions. Clemson's is a situation where they kind of got caught in a year where some guys that need to play a lot and play well aren't quite ready. And then you got line issues, and then you have injuries, and you've had transfers. So there are like reasons going in where you say, well, this is why. South Carolina has no excuse other than, hey, the players don't know what to do. I mean, and so it's different. So I honestly believe, that Gamecock fans, lighted the Clemson's number 25 in the country right now. Okay, they're not top 5 or 10. They may move back up, whatever. But Auburn's number 22. I mean, there's a chance, and I think that's why Beamers remain positive. You just get concerned when you hear, though, we've just got to improve from Georgia and improve from East Carolina, and then you see the same crap happening over and over and over again. And sure, some of it's on the players. Doty missed some passes. There were some drop passes that could have won the game. Maybe with a little better running game, though, you're not worried about going to winning the game late. And, it starts this weekend against Troy. So I'm sorry for ranting, guys. I just it's just like, wow, with some of this stuff. And I wanted to kind of make the point that this is a critical time, to get some of this stuff fixed. Troy lost to Terry Bowden and Louisiana Monroe last week. So, and they're having trouble scoring too. They do have a great defense for the Sun Belt. So, and Chip Lindsey's a good coach, but this is a chance for Carolina against a good Sun Belt defense to go out, test the offense, get it right, do some different things, and then get ready to go to Knoxville. And you go to Knoxville, and then Vandy comes in, and, we'll see what happens.
For anyone seeing the graphic up here that I just threw up about that top 4 defense right there for Troy, they beat Southern 55-3.
God awful.
Yeah. Lost to Liberty 21-13. So their schedule is not like daunting. Beat Southern Miss 21-9. And like JC just said, lost to Louisiana Monroe, gave up 29 points. So it's not as though they've given up 240 yards a game and they're playing juggernauts.
Louisiana Monroe is one of the worst football. I watched them play most of their game against Kentucky. It's one of the worst teams I've seen. The most entertaining part was Terry Bowden and Rich Rodriguez over there on the sidelines. And so, yeah, they're terrible. And Troy lost. Southern Miss, Brett Favre is not walking through that door. They've been terrible for a while and declining. So a win in Hattiesburg's not what it used to be. The Liberty game was impressive because Liberty's played, they got Hugh Freeze, Malik Willis, all that good stuff. And they're 2-0 and have, scored 40-plus points against other teams and then lost to Syracuse this past weekend. But, I don't know that this is this is not the Troy that – I don't think this is the Troy that beat LSU in Baton Rouge. At the same time, when you're only scoring 7 points, you're good for a touchdown a game. Anybody can beat you, man. Anybody. So,
by the way, you want to know who else lost to Louisiana Monroe? Nick Saban in his first year at Alabama.
Yeah, this is not the same though. I'll tell you what, though. I'll tell you this about Monroe. They do have one more win, and it's against Jacksonville State, who beat the other Gamecocks.
They beat Florida State.
Yeah. So they're 2-1. They actually play Coastal this weekend. So, but Rhett Rodriguez, which is Rich Rod's son, he was in intensive care with a collapsed lung.
Oh no.
And all that. So they may not hang with Coastal. Then they got Sean Elliott. But that's Louisiana Monroe. Troy, like I said, it's it's going to be a game. I think the Gamecocks, because they're so good on defense for a Sun Belt team, I don't think it just means nothing if the offense goes out there and can establish a run, especially if we see some different looks and cleaner play. And that'll get them ready for Tennessee. And then the Carolina defense obviously has to go out and do their thing against a, what by all accounts is not, 13 points, 21, and then 16. It's not that explosive of a Troy offense these days.
By the way, I also don't believe that after the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks maybe of the season that Carolina was holding anything back on offense. I think they are who they are. Remember those conversations? Well, they're probably holding something back. Yeah, I don't think they are.
Well, I mean, look, man, we heard all summer, Joe Brady this and Joe Brady that. And I think a lot of us kind of thought, well, they may not be quite equipped to run the Brady offense we saw at LSU because they don't have a bunch of NFL receivers and tight ends and Joe Burrow. But that's okay. That was one of the most dominant offenses in the history of college football. Scheme-wise, you sort of thought that. I think
this scheme does not resemble that.
No, here's the secret. It's more like what they do with the Panthers than what they did at LSU. Like, in fact, I haven't seen anything. I mean, maybe there's some plays here and there, but I haven't seen anything that resembles what they did at LSU. I had a coach at Carolina tell me in 2019, what the heck do you do with the offense? He's like, well, look at LSU. He's like, that's nothing but a big old spread. He's like, which means you can't be afraid to go 5 wide on first down. You got to get there and get after it. It's just aggressive. And, you know, I don't know that spreading it 4 or 5 wide didn't. I mean, you know, at the beginning of the year, I said you're probably crazy, but, you know, with the issues they're having, I don't know that, you know, you've probably got 3 receivers and a tight end or 4 receivers, you know, that you could go do that with. I don't know. But yeah, it looks schematically play calling nothing like Joe Brady LSU. There's probably some Panther stuff that's in there, but again, this is not the NFC South. It's the Southeastern Conference. These are college guys. You know, I could really, and I mean, really people could care less how complicated an NFL like the blocking scheme is and how it looks on the chalkboard. You know, the important thing is they block the guy. You know, like, you know, Steve Spur used to say, get his wrist, block him. You know, he didn't know anything about anything. And so anyway, that's my take on all that. Now, like I said, I'm not negative Nancy here. I think that there has to be a sense of urgency with this offense, or the season results could end up as a season with a lot of lost opportunity where this program could exercise a lot of demons, including the game at the end of the year.
It's a heck of a weekend coming up, obviously. JC, you'll be back with us for the big Gamecock preview show on Friday. That is also very proudly presented by Motley Rice. We all know about Arkansas and Georgia and that top 10 matchup at noon. That's the site of College Game Day this week over in Athens. And we also, of course, know at 3:30 on CBS from Bryant Denny, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin will make the trip as 2 touchdown underdogs to the Crimson Tide. Maybe this will be the first former assistant coach of Saban to find a way to get it done and beat him with one of the guys who's contending for the Heisman Trophy, Matt Corral. Of course, Bryce Young's up there as well. But also elsewhere in the league, JC, it's a heck of a week. Yeah, unfortunately, Vanderbilt and UConn have to play. We've clearly talked about Troy and South Carolina, but Mississippi State and A&M, you mentioned points. A&M, they might want to try to find a way to score a couple. I know that their defense is good, but they're still going to need to hang some numbers up there on the board. LSU will host Auburn as 3.5-point favorites late on Saturday night. And maybe, just maybe, if South Carolina can beat Troy, Gamecock fans will feel a little bit better, maybe a smidgen, about their loss to the Wildcats if Kentucky can take down 10th-ranked Florida in Lexington Saturday night at 6 o'clock on ESPN, where the Gators are 8-point favorites. Final thoughts on the SEC slate, and we'll let you run, brother.
Yeah, you know, I think obviously Arkansas – probably the end of the road for them as far as being the undefeated top 10 team. Still, you got to love the pit boss and what the Hogs are doing. So happy for those fans. Tennessee, Missouri is going to be interesting to me because Missouri struggled on defense. Tennessee struggled on offense against good defenses, but they've been able to put points on the board. You know, what's that going to look like out in Columbia, Missouri? Missouri's usually had Tennessee's number over the years. LSU, Auburn. No faith. Auburn's going in there and won down there since 99.
Wow.
And then Alabama and Ole Miss, I know people are going to say it's a lot of fun. The over-under on that game is the highest over-under on the board, 79.
Yeah.
I'd hammer the under because I think a lot of people are sitting there going, wow, look at Lane Kiffin's offense. And they was, 62-56 last year, something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is not last year. And this game's in Tuscaloosa. And last time I checked, Alabama had a pretty good defense. So I think that expecting that many points, the under's probably a safe bet. Because really all you got to do is get to halftime with an under collective 40, and you're probably safe. Probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'd hammer that. But, yeah, going to be a heck of a weekend, man. I'm looking forward to watching it and certainly hoping to feel a little better about the team we talk about all the time next week. And, you know, I have a good feeling we will. But,
yeah, I do too.
You know, looking forward to the preview show later this week.
Well, and as noted in that LSU Auburn game, if TJ Finley starts for Auburn, he'll be starting against his team last year, LSU.
Yeah,
So,
and don't be surprised if he does.
Yeah, I think it looks
tidbit there.
Yeah, looks like Mike Bobo has turned the page on that offense, which we talked about that before the season. I wasn't sold on Bo Nix and a Mike Bobo offense, and here we are coming into week 5. Bo Nix is sitting on the sidelines. Still has nice hair, but he's sitting on the sidelines.
I've been sold on Bo Nix and anybody's offense.
Yeah.
My Bobos.
Well, look, Gamecocks beat him last year. So JC Horn beat him last year in Columbia. JC, we'll let you run on that note. I know I saw last night there were some fireworks on the board of the bigspur.com.
Yeah.
Looks like you've put those to bed, so that's good.
Yeah, parents of players, welcome to join the site. I would highly recommend not posting. I would further recommend don't lie and try to spread pop propaganda, because you will be found out, and it's not an enjoyable thing for anybody to have to deal with that. I love players, parents, dealt with them my whole career, but doing this and recruiting, but you mix them with fans and people with opinions, and obviously they have an opinion about their kid, not an unbiased resource. So that was unfortunate, but we're all good now, and it's a better day. And I would tell everybody who's not a member, come join the site. Tony Morrell, if you're wondering what exactly the deal is with Doty's injury, Tony Morrell broke it down today like nobody else, but it's for members only. So go check it out.
Absolutely. I already did. That's where I get my information. But I haven't said anything about it. We'll say that tomorrow and then use it as news like we broke it. That's what we do. We steal your information and then we say it as our own.
Yeah, at least you'll take it into like little private chat rooms and all that. Per source.
Right. Oh, thank you, JC. Hey, it's National Coffee Day. Grab yourself a cup and enjoy.
Hey, I was up at 4 this morning. Drank plenty of coffee. Hope my heart doesn't explode. See you guys.
See you. There you go. The JC Shurburtt, owner of the bigspur.com. If you need to get that yard cleaned up before the fall gets here and the grass goes brown, stump grinders, mini skid steers, and attachments, commercial zero-turn mowers, trenchers, sod cutters, which I had to borrow from our friends over at Wando Power, dump trailers, aerators, utility trailers, you name it. Literally anything. An excavator, a mini excavator, they have them all there. Wando Power Equipment in the Low Country, but people come from all across the state like Piedmont and Florence and Beaufort and Myrtle Beach to shop at Wando Power Equipment and to rent at Wando Power Equipment. WandoPower.com, powering the JB and Goldwater shows Power Hour here at 1:47 on this Wednesday afternoon. Final timeout. We're going to hit that when we return. We'll start to get things wrapped up with a couple of NFL notes and more. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Hopefully, you won't ever need legal help for a catastrophic injury or health issues from a medical drug or device. But if you or a loved one suffers injury or loss, Motley Rice LLC is a nationally recognized law firm that is right here in Mount Pleasant at 28 Ridgeside Boulevard. Thank you, Motley Rice, for sponsoring the JB and Goldwater Show and the Big Gamecock Preview Show. Visit MotleyRice.com for more. MotleyRice.com.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road. You know what happens when you sell record numbers of new vehicles? That's right, we take in record numbers of local trades. Despite what the news is saying, quality pre-owned vehicles really aren't that hard to find. You just need to know where to look. Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate and on the web at stokesvw.com. We've got over 1,200 pre-owned cars, trucks, SUVs, and all at a fraction of the price when new. Every vehicle has been inspected and reconditioned, many with the balance of factory warranty. Best of all, at Stokes Volkswagen, you don't need perfect credit to get approved for a quality pre-owned vehicle, and we'll take any trade in any condition, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. Don't forget, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy a car from us. You're going to love our pre-owned selection, I guarantee it. So come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate or stokesvw.com.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Negative trade equity financed a new loan, subject to lender approval.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor, Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
You hear me talk about Dog and Duck all the time, and there's no other place I'm going to watch my college and NFL than the Dog and Duck. They have 3 locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road. They have specials all football season long, like $12 pitchers of their own D2 brew, $5 pints of Sierra Nevada, weekly pick'em sheets with prizes, and the best wings in town, bar none. For all your football, college, and NFL, the Dog and Duck, Clements Ferry Road, Bell Hall, and Park West.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
Thank you, Mr. Patrick Davis. Got another tailgate weekend coming up. Make sure you've got your Whiskey Jam for your tailgate, wherever it's going to be. Whiskey Jam, they will send it right to your home. Head to patrickdavismusic.com, and you can get the link from there. Ship it right to your doorstep. It's fantastic stuff. Try the Blackberry if you've not done so already. Also, it's Wednesday, so if you're in the low country of South Carolina, it's that brown bag burger over there at the Dog and Duck, man. All 3 locations, both in Mount Pleasant, the one on Clements Ferry. It's literally an unbelievable cheeseburger. It's like the old school smash burgers. So go get one.
It's so good. And the great thing is, now that it's football season, like it used to be called the game day burger. So on the weekends, it is still called the game day burger. But after last football season, they took it off and it was only Wednesdays for the brown bag. Now you can get that burger 3 of the 7 days of the week. You can get it on your Wednesdays. You can get it on Saturday and Sunday for game day burger. And the one in Bell Hall has added 2 new 70-inch screens, and there are 2 more ready to be deployed for the patio as well that are, I think, 70, maybe 68, but close to 70.
Okay.
Yeah.
70.
Yeah. They're big. When you sit close to it, it's like you're inside. It's good.
Hey, by the way, I'm interested in getting a projector. So if any of you listening or watching right now have one, tell me which one to get that would do the, not that I'm going to project it in the bright daylight, but at least outside during the day in the shade where it's not direct sunlight. If you happen to know, send that my way. I'd like to take a peek at some of those, something that's affordable. Don't send me a $5,000 projector. I'm not buying that. Before we get to a couple other notes, so we got a comment here. Need Florida to beat the fur off those kitties, obviously referencing Kentucky for the weekend. Keeps which is obviously South Carolina's season more alive. We'll push Kentucky stuff ourselves next year. I disagree. I think that look, Kentucky might have a pretty good year, and I get it. If you're a Carolina fan, or for that matter, if you're a Tennessee fan or a Missouri fan, or anybody else, you hate to see a team that, like the Wildcats, who historically you've been better than. Of course, the last 8 years you haven't been if you're South Carolina, but you hate to see what they're doing. But if you're South Carolina, I mean, that ship has already sailed. You already got beat by them. So I think you look down the schedule and you look for Florida to take maybe their second loss in the league, because they already got beat by Bama. And just know that, hey, well, maybe we're going to be better than by then in November and have a chance. Right now, Carolina has 0 chance against Florida, but maybe by November you do. So I disagree with that. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. But I think if you ask me who am I pulling for in that game, I'm pulling for Kentucky to beat Florida.
I got bad news for you. That's probably not going to happen, especially if Kentucky turns the ball over. And as a little preview of some of my picks for Friday, the same reason I will pick Michigan to beat Wisconsin. Turnovers. Yeah. So I don't think Kentucky has much of a shot down in Gainesville. I think it's only like an 8-point line right now. And I do think Michigan beats Wisconsin.
That game's in Lexington. Games in Lexington. Yeah. I think they have a shot. I don't know. We'll pick the game, but I think they have a shot. They've obviously played Florida really close the last 4 or 5 years. They've won one. They finally broke that streak, but
Richardson's going to be healthy again this week too for Florida.
Yeah, well, Emory Jones has been playing really good football.
Yeah,
best football of his career.
Yeah, yes.
So that's a good problem to have. I think I'd stick with the hot hand if I'm Dan Mullen, but what do I know? I don't know anything about all that. How about Richard Sherman's signing with the Bucks just in time for them to hit the road to New England this weekend, where Tom Brady is more than likely going to break Drew Brees' passing yards record on his former turf, and Sherman will be up there as well. And let me tell you what bothers me about all this. I have read all of literally nothing that is trying to drive this wedge between Brady and the Patriots and Belichick. First of all, I don't really care what their relationship is. It doesn't bother me in the least whether they like each other or don't. Now all these books are coming out, and this is, to me, just everybody waited on it and waited on it and waited. Oh, Brady's back. Let's release our findings and all the conversation we had in these books. I think it's a bunch of garbage. I don't care. But everybody is going to – I don't know what the relationship is. Everybody's going to make this out to be probably more than it is, Darren, going into the game. I just want to see how it works out, and I think I know how it's going to work out, probably in favor of Tampa. But there's just a lot of gibberish that's been happening all week with all these behind-the-scenes stories that we're all of a sudden telling.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of see it, right? Whenever there's a dynasty, whenever there's a legend that's part of a dynasty, whenever that thing comes down, there's going to be inside looks. You saw it with Jordan. You've seen it with Magic Johnson. You've seen it across baseball. There's some Derek Jeter stuff, whether it's positive or negative stuff. When there's a dynasty, when there's a legend, there's going to be some, let's dig deeper. Let's figure out what some of this actually was. And obviously, because of the success that they had, to have it end with Brady leaving, and not just leaving, but going to win a Super Bowl leaving, that was eye-opening. And if I'm a fan, which I'm not, of the Patriots, do I care? I'm interested. I mean, I'm curious. It's interesting to me. If I get these books, if I dive deep into it, if it was a fractured relationship for like most of the time, then that's an interesting peek behind the curtains of, well, damn, how'd they make it work so well if there was this fracture?
That's true.
So that part is interesting. The other thing I was in the gym today and I see something previewing the game. All anyone's talking about is Brady's going back to New England. Gronk is also going back to New England. Now, he wasn't the guy Brady is, but he was certainly a fixture there. It's going to be a huge deal. The production of the game will have every bell and whistle. It will feel like a postseason all-star, that type of a broadcast. That's what they're going to do to it.
Yeah, it's an 8:20 kick, obviously Sunday Night Football on NBC. So it will certainly be neat to look at. The one piece of that certainly did catch me was, if at the end of this deal, and it might not be as big of a deal as they made it out to be, which generally these things aren't, but if Brady tried to meet up with Belichick to let him know and he said, no, thanks, I'll give you a shout. It's kind of interesting. You'd think after all those years, 20 years, I wish you the best of luck. Thanks for all these rings, by the way. So we'll have to see kind of where this sucker goes, but I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of build-up over the next 3 days, and then they're just going to play the game. It's going to be over, and there's going to literally be nothing else to it.
Mac Jones needs to play better. Look good early, look good in the preseason. Now he needs to play better.
Yeah, I would say so. All right, tomorrow on our program, David Shelton, of course, on Thursdays. So if you've missed him, we get a bunch of high school football in with David as another Friday night approaches here in the Palmetto State. Scott Glaze will wrap the Ryder Cup. Really looking forward to this conversation with Scotty. Talk about DJ and how he played, and obviously just the entire American team was awesome last weekend, dominating the Europeans. So certainly looking forward to that. And we are planning on having David Cloninger tomorrow as well. And I am making an attempt, as long as the times can work out, to get former South Carolina pitching coach Skylar Meade on with us as well. He's now the head coach over at Troy. So it'd be good to check in with Skylar. He's a good friend anyways. And it'd be a neat tie-in with the Trojans coming to South Carolina this weekend to take on the Gamecocks. Yep. All your jokes, we know what they are. I did insert game before we got to the end of that. But so it's going to be a jam-packed day tomorrow, and we certainly hope that you'll join us for the entire 2 hours. It is also, in addition to National Coffee Day, it's National VFW Day.
Oh, cool.
So I bet there are some parties going on at VFWs all across the land. Thank you for your service, and I can only imagine the stories that are happening in there.
Every day.
The VFW out on the Isle of Palms is wild, man. They're also it's also the coolest place in the world to do, because you have every concert of the Windjammer for free now. They play them all outside.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thanks to JC Shurburtt. Braves tonight. The magic number is 3. They win. It's over. They'll be NL East champions again, basically for the 4th year in a row. Basically. For Darren, I'm Jamie. Have a wonderful Wednesday afternoon. It's a little warm. Come on, cool air. It's football season. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, very proudly presented by Motley Rice and driven by Stokes Volkswagen.